Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Anyway, actually, I have to get my coffee in this morning, and I'm sitting here chilling underneath. Oh, he's getting close. He's getting warm. I'm underneath. It's a papaya tree behind me. It's kind of a sentimental papaya. It's one of the last papaya trees my father ate before he passed away into a different type of energy, and really the end of his life, and it kind of formed a lot of the things that why I am the way that I am today. But he passed into a different energy, and we pulled up data on papaya and the pain enzymes and the things in a papaya, but anyway, so I'm growing the papaya tree, one of the seeds from the last papayas he had. But I was checking it out this morning. This dude getting close. Check this out. Let me show you something. I don't know if you can see him. Let's see if we can get in there. There he goes. You know what that is? You know what that is? That's pesticide, man. That's natural pesticide. You can't recognize that. That's pesticide isn't something you spray on a crop. It's something that nature made, and it eats pests off of crops. And so, yeah, I'm gonna sit here and do a video underneath some pesticide, and hopefully that don't jump on the back of me. I try to be as natural as I can, and I'm working on it. But things that look like spiders still bother me a little bit. So, but anyway, let me get my coffee. I'm almost ready to go. I got my coffee. Yeah. Tough topic. Couple things on my mind this morning. First, I had to check my shirt. I had to go back. This live thing is crazy because you have to go back and check your videos. And did I wear that shirt? I mean, I don't want to wear the same shirt every single video because being when you got a army of people looking out for you and what you wear, washing your clothes, and you're married and all that stuff, you don't have to, I don't know the right way to say that, but there's no such thing as clean and dirty when it comes to clothes. It doesn't exist. Every bachelor knows that. All you have is verifiable funk and unverifiable funk. So I had to grab a shirt that was in the right pile. But anyway, y'all gonna judge me, and I'm okay with that. What do I want to talk about this morning? All right, so this is gonna be a tough one. It's gonna be a ride, so hopefully you want to hang in there and let me get to where I want to get to with this. Learned a lot of stuff this week. A lot of good things happening on the thread, and I was told that I'm supposed to say my house rules, and I'm not sure that I know what good house rules are. Never done this before, but if you want to interact with the folks on my thread, I'm interested in intellectual discussion. I'm interested in learning different perspectives from different people. If you want to fight, if you want to troll, if you want to slam someone who's maybe a little different from you for what they're saying, you're not going to be around me and my friends long, because we're trying to bring a fractured country together, right? And it has nothing to do with who's the president. It has nothing to do with who was the president. And to me, it's got everything to do with the fact that we don't pick any of our presidents. But I'm gonna leave that there. Just come with love, say things out of respect, and try to understand somebody else's perspective, because we're one tribe. And I have this belief that, no, that's the wrong word. I know that human beings, we're one tribe, and we've always been one tribe. And I believe that every human being on this planet that's died, probably hundreds of billions of them, generation after generation, no matter how they died, no matter where they died, they all fought to to push the next generation up, right? Like the whole purpose they even existed was to elevate the next generation, to make it smarter, to make it wiser, to make it faster, to make it stronger. And I think it's all on this universal hope of all of these human hominid species thing to survive, right? To survive and then to thrive. And I know that every species that doesn't push the next generation up, they go extinct. And so everything that kind of goes through my mind, man, it's about how do we make things better for the next generation? How do we push the next generation up? Sometimes I say stuff that offends people. I don't mean to offend anybody. That is not my goal. My goal is to think about some of the things we don't think about, talk about some of the things we're scared to talk about, to get to a point where we can have empathy with the others, right? Because that's the whole concept of divide and conquer, is the others. Okay, so this morning we're going to talk about white guilt. And how did I get here? Okay. No, I don't want to go there yet. I don't want to get there. Not just yet. We're going to get there. We're going to get there in a minute. If you're looking for like really straight to the point, I'm not the person. I'm just talking. I'm drinking my coffee and I'm talking. So what I learned this week. So what I was looking into, one of the brothers posted out there, was about Brother Lavoy Finicum. And he was a rancher associated with the Bundys and the Bundy Ranch and all that stuff that went down. I think I posted a video about it, but man, it hit my heart. It hit my heart because you can see the helicopter video, and the brother, he had, I think it was his granddaughter and his wife, and it might have been his son. You can correct the details if I'm wrong. And basically, they, good morning, Brother Shane. And they were heading to a sheriff's station. And of course, the FBI wanted to arrest them. And I won't go through all the details, but the bottom line is that they were unarmed. And if you watch the video, they shot Brother Shane down. Now, was he speeding away from the police, the FBI? Yes, he was. But my mind doesn't really work the way I think a lot of other folks do. They were speeding away from federal officers in a state, going to their state police station. And if you were the FBI, the wise thing would have been, we're going to sit here, well, we'll follow you to the station, and we can have this conversation about whatever we need to do. And whether that ends in arrest, whatever, we're not violating your constitutional rights, then that arrest is going to happen. But they wouldn't let him get there. And so they basically did everything they could to stop him. They made a roadblock in front of him. He ran off the road, he jumped out the truck, and they shot him cold dead. And the great thing I appreciate about the helicopter video, though, is you can't tell what race he is. That's why I love helicopter video, and it was really blurry, because it would look like any shooting in any inner city, right? And I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. That's not what I want to talk about, but I want to say that you all got the same things in common. They're shooting all of you. And it's not even a thing about the FBI, and it's not a thing about the police, like I've said before. It's about building a culture of violence, and that's what they legislate for. So while you're cheering your politicians, they're writing laws, killing all of you, and you all got the same thing in common. They get to a point where they think they own you. That's the church bell. Hopefully the dramatic people, hopefully y'all are all at church. I don't want to get in trouble this morning. So rest in peace, Brother Lavoy Finicum, and the rest of the brothers out there, because they got them, most of them in prison. And we got to pull. You got to realize that in a free country, people can live free, and they should be allowed to live free. But we won't get anywhere if people on both sides, and it's not two sides, they're probably like 20 sides, but until y'all realize they feel they own you, they feel that they can do anything they want, they don't have to make intelligent solutions peaceful for anything, which is why every solution and every little piece of legislation that comes out, it's always a violent answer. It's always do this or else, because they're not smart enough or they don't give a damn enough to make intelligent solutions that are peaceful. So rest in peace. You don't shoot dead children and senior citizens. I think he was 74, 75, in a free country. You don't, in a country that gives a damn, that doesn't happen. So anyway, Thanksgiving. You know, in my family, Thanksgiving, like some of y'all's families, we have the kid table and we got the adult table. And all the kids are kind of forced to sit at a little table, and it's kind of bad if you're like a teenager, because you got to sit at the table, got your knees up, you know, you got to eat your Thanksgiving dinner, and all the adults sit, because the adults have the adult conversation and the kids have the kid conversation. And here, we're all at the kid table. I don't care what you think about who you voted for. We're all at the kid table because our votes are invalid. They don't care. I mean, elections in America go, everyone yells and screams at each other. They put their votes in, and then we spend the next 8 years with one side talking about how great this guy or gal who's not doing the things that they promised is, and the other side yelling and screaming about how horrible this person is who's doing or not doing the things. And the reality is we always have the same president. And so all of the arguments about greatness or being horrible, they're all invalid because all the presidents all do the same thing. I really don't all do the same thing. So in terms of making change in America, we're all at the kid table. You got to get up from the kid table, and people have to go back to running our government, and that's not going to happen if you have everybody on, or half the people on that side and half the other people on that side. You'll never get anything done because they don't have to listen to anything you have to say. So, how to win an argument. There's a great movie. It's called Thank You for Smoking, and I would encourage everybody to watch Thank You for Smoking. He talks about, I won't give the movie away, a great movie. I love movies. He talks about how to win an argument, right? You get into a discussion with someone. As long as you argue the facts, you'll always win. Always. Hands down. And you stand on the side of, I think the example he gave was, I like strawberry ice cream. The other guy said, no, chocolate's the best. You'll never win that argument, right? Because I'm always going to be right. Because I only like strawberry. I'm not saying strawberry is the best ice cream. It's just that's what I like. I like strawberry. But this guy over here is arguing that chocolate is the best ice cream out there. You'll never win. And so when you get into the discussion with folks out here, always arm yourself with the facts. If you have the facts and you just stand on the facts, you don't have to actually know. All you got to know is you're wrong, right? Like you don't have to know that, you don't have to take a position that you're right, which is probably when I talk a lot, I just say what I think. I don't see what I say what I know. I say what I think. And I always have the facts to back it up because you don't ever say anything in public you can't stand behind. And this is where guilt kind of comes from, right? Like we've seen that before in times of slavery, right? How do you make slavery sustainable? You build up these little interplantation narratives that the slave is supposed to be a slave, that the slave has to feel some sort of guilt for what it is. There was a good scene in some movie, I forgot what it was, or TV show, I don't remember. But it was a little slave kid. I think he was probably about 6, 7, some little kid. And the master was mad about something. And the kid just started profusely apologizing, like, I'm sorry for being a slave, I'm sorry for being black, I'm sorry, master, I'm sorry. And that's what guilt does, right? Like, if you can build up a narrative of guilt around a person or a group, you control them. And that's what guilt is all about. If you want to control someone, make them feel guilty for what they are or who they are. And another good example is in a marriage. Man, and I'm not laughing. It's not funny. I think back to some of the situations I've been in, and I think back to some of the domestic violence type situations a lot of my friends have been in. And in order to control someone, you just make them feel guilty. If you can deploy a guilty feeling in them, then you control them. Good morning, Janet. Good morning, Misty. How y'all doing? And that's what controlling men do. These abusive men and abusive women too. This is what they do. Is they seek to control you. They convince you that something is wrong with you. Why? Because if I can convince you that you're wrong, then everything that I say or do is right. Yes, Marsha, if I can get you on that guilt trip, then I can convince you to do whatever I want you to do. And you're just like that little slave child who's apologizing for his very existence, right? You're like the woman who gets up the next day, or the man, and is apologizing for being what they are while they're, trying to clean up their black eye or patch themselves up from being beat up. You're agreeing with the concept and the idea. I know I know brothers who got family, got kids. Good morning, Joanne. And every night they're at the bar. Every single night, out just drinking and I'm not one to judge you and your marriage and your setup. You got to figure out your thing for y'all and what works for y'all. But it kind of goes along with that narrative that, I have the right to party and hang out and do what I want. And I come home drunk and I treat you any way I want to treat you. And that doesn't always happen, but it fits that. You got kids at home who want to play Monopoly and spend time with dad. But again, if you have guilt and you control the guilt in that conversation, you can get people to do whatever you want them to do. And so that kind of brings us down to this whole white guilt thing. So I never really spent time thinking about it because it never really was put in front of me. Usually it tends to be, just our brothers and sisters are saying it, in conversation, I guess, here and there. You don't really think about it, or it's the media or something. But then now it's like a politician thing, right? And that's when it clicks in my head. When people say this, it's kind of just people talking or something. But when politicians start tapping into white guilt, it's dangerous. Oh man, that's dangerous. But that's when it clicked in my head, what the hell are y'all talking about? Because I don't really question our brothers and sisters all that much in their lingo, in their lexicon. But when politicians say, everything they say, I'm from this weird world, right? I'm from this weird world where all politicians lie They lie, they lie, they lie. They can't tell the truth. And any time that you are not paying attention, they are lying you out of something, they are lying you into something, or they're lying to take something from. That's all they do is lie. And it's not really because they're bad people. It's because that's the job, right? They work for big corporations and they gotta lie. So everything that comes out of their mouth, whether they're, I guess, on my proverbial side or whatever, I question. So I started looking, started thinking about this white guilt thing. So, first of all, the first problem I have with the first very obvious problem is you got the term white in front of it. And so you're already making it a racial term. So that's like already for me, it's like thrown out. Like you're already trying to group up a lot of people who come from a certain descent and probably 50 different cultures into one box to control them. So that portion of you got to throw that out to begin with. And then the guilt side of it is you're trying to get people to feel guilty for something they didn't do, something odds are a lot of their ancestors had nothing to do with, right? Because if we look back, was it less than 1% actually were involved in, actually owned slaves, and there was a slightly higher percentage of that who were involved in the slave trade, but they were paid to do it by, railroad tycoons and plantations and politicians. Like all of that came from the elite. All of that stuff is ruling elite, and even those who were involved in it, they were paid to do it. And that's not to say on the other side, those, because all of this actually was the Arab slave trade, if you really want to look at history. And it all had to do with pushing slaves to the Middle East. And there were African tribes that were warring with each other to do that. And I try not to, so there's elite everywhere, right? Whether it's with the Arabs, with the African tribes, or there, and they all would always play these games, and it ends up in some sort of human capital situation. But so it's a thing to control people, and where this kind of came from, I was watching a thread. I don't jump in dramatic threads. Like if I look at a thread and it's obvious that nothing productive is going to come from it, I'll look at it, but I won't engage. I have no interest in fighting with people. My interest is learning and trying to, when I can, when I do know something, share what I know. I can't really say too much because I say it, y'all know. Some of y'all will know exactly what I'm talking about, but when politicians start to leverage any sort of guilt trip, it can be black guilt, it can be Asian guilt, Hispanic guilt, white guilt, whatever. It means that their position is so weak that there's no other go-to, that they have to use a controlling method of an abuser or a plantation owner to force you to go along with their narrative. Anytime someone uses force, a controlling force or a physical force, it's a violation, right? And that's violence. They're forcing you. And that brings in the whole rule of force. But anytime someone does that, it's already because they're wrong. And you can see these things. And so what I'm going to ask that y'all don't buy into it. I'm going to ask that you don't use it and that you don't buy into it. Mainly because you're not helping. You're not helping the conversation at all. If you are using racial terms, if you are feeling guilty about these terms and you don't want to stand up for what's right, everybody knows what's right and wrong. You were born knowing what's right and wrong. So if you if you want to chime into discussion and things like that, and you're feeling, it's hard to say because you don't know that you're being controlled a lot of times. Like it actually, before I got into a lot of this, I was involved in children's rights, and it led down into domestic violence and abuse. And I ran into this lady she ran a domestic violence shelter in, I want to say West Virginia, and she kind of went through the details. And I'm not a psychotherapist, I'm not a psychologist. I just listen to people who know what they're talking about, who, professionals in those areas. And she talked about how with domestic violence, it actually creates conditions in the abused of something that's seeming of a mental illness, right? Where the person actually feels that that they deserve whatever is being thrown at them. And almost kind of like in a way like Stockholm syndrome. And you're not helping. You're not helping the conversation. If you see somebody who is suffering from this idea of guilt for whatever race they are, whatever little narratives or games that are being played, you need to pull them up. You got to pull them aside and just say, listen, same way you would pull up someone who was being abused. Pull them up and say, look, you can't be in this. You're not of the right mental standing to even be in the conversation. So that's what I got. That's what I want to put out there. Stop buying into the narrative. Understand where these things come from. These things all come from the ruling elite. They're just means of controlling people and walking them into perpetuating a system that they simply don't want to change. So, but anyway, so the whole live thing. I have to look at the comments, and then I'm step out of here and see if I missed something. A lot of y'all, I like to go back and respond later, but I want to try to be interactive when I can. Yeah, and Joanne, you're right. So the elite, they always use the same narrative: divide and conquer. Divisions. They break people up, and that's why with me, everything is, what can we do to bring people together? How do we get people to see that what they did to Lavoy Finicum and them is no different to what they do to the folks in the inner city, right? When they're shooting them cold blood in the street, it's just murder. Everybody has the same thing in common, but you got to get through your blockhead. You got to get through that thickness and that anger and that hate and that whatever you're holding on to from the past that's getting you to separate yourself from your tribal members who just had a different migration path in history, right? Because that's all it is. We all came from the same place, but for thousands of years, we just walked different ways. Some folks walked north and they ended up in Europe. Others walked east and they ended up in China, and then others ended up in North America and Australia. And so you can't divide yourself from people just because they walked a different direction from you. So everything is about dividing. And so that's why I'm saying everything with me is all about bringing people together. Yeah, that's a bird. That's a hawk. That's my ringtone. And yet you don't participate anymore in the division. You don't participate. Don't play their games. Don't subscribe to the narratives. If the terms you're using divide people, if the results of whatever you're doing causes problems, then let it go. Sometimes you are supporting good people, and even in some of the discussion I was actually talking about, I think they're all good people and they all mean well, but we are all brainwashed, every last one of us. And I appreciate my brothers and sisters here when they call me on some of my washing. When you walk into a situation, and that situation at the end of the day plays up to help the ruling elite perpetuate whatever this crap that they've been doing to us, you have to upgrade. You have to delete that programming, and listen to your brother, your sister, and what they're trying to tell you about something that's a pain to them, something that's hurting their family. So, on it 1,000%. All right, I want to try to keep these talks low in terms of time. So y'all, find somebody who's different from you, sit them down and talk to them. Find out what keeps them up at night. And don't ever vote and support things that make that worse. Because that's what legislation is. It's just taking a problem, they build an industry out of it. All right, I'm gonna end on the joke. So I was catching up on, what's the name of that show? I forgot, but it was about the Underwoods, and it was a politician. He was in the car. He was talking to the guy, and he's like, you know what? I always walk the last couple thousand feet to the office, and so let me out. And he says, because I want to stop and talk to people and find out what keeps them up at night. And I was sitting thinking about that. Finding out with politicians. I've had enough meetings with politicians to let you know that it's just all BS, and they just lie in your face. Oh, they lied to me, man. And I was young at the time. And I was like, oh yeah, that's you gonna do that? You care? We hug and shake hands and take pictures, and it was BS. So, if a politician asks you if they want to know what keeps you up at night, I don't give a damn about that. They're just going to build a little story around it. It means that there's a pharmaceutical company somewhere that's got some sleep drugs that they want to sell, and they're actually just polling to find out how many people are sleepless. That's all it's about. Don't think for a minute that they care. They're just trying to build an industry on the fact that you can't sleep. But that's it, y'all. I got to finish my coffee. I got cotton to pick, man. Let me get my bag, get over here. I hope y'all have a good day, on your plantations. Hopefully some of y'all ain't on plantations today, y'all, but when you step away, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So I'm going to go get my bag. Master over there, he mad as hell. I'm about to get in some trouble. So God bless y'all. Y'all have a good day.